Before he was Bruno Mars, the name on every chart, the voice behind global anthems, he was a kid, broke and homeless, fighting for survival on the streets of Honolulu. From sleeping in cars to selling out stadiums.
Now, what is it about Elvis? What do you like about Elvis?
I like singing and his dance and his lips.
How does someone rise from nothing to become one of the most electrifying superstars in music history? This isn't just a story of talent. It's a story of obsession, of resilience, of a young man who refused to let homelessness define him. A young man who knew his voice would change the world. Brace yourselves. This is the insane, untold story of Bruno Mars.
Honolulu, Hawaii, 1985. In a small but lively home filled with rhythm and melody, Peter Gene Hernandez entered the world. Music wasn't just a hobby for this family, it was life. His father, a Latin percussionist from Brooklyn, and his mother, a Hawaiian Filipino singer, set the stage for their son's future. But this future superstar didn't start out as Bruno Mars. At the age of 2, his dad nicknamed him Bruno because he thought the chubby-cheeked toddler looked like famous wrestler Bruno Sammartino. By age 4, Bruno was a local sensation, known as Little Elvis and performing 5 nights a week with his family's band, the Love Notes. While other kids were learning to tie their shoes, Bruno was learning to work a crowd.
All I had to do was supply him with videotape. He'd watch it, study it, he could do every move.
He hopes his son will go into the movie industry one day. He says Bruno's a natural actor.
That was what always amazed me, that he could just, like a light switch, go into character.
But it wasn't all glitz and glamour. Picture this. 5-year-old Bruno on stage confidently crooning "Can't Help Falling in Love" until he wets himself mid-performance. Most kids would have been mortified. Not Bruno. He kept singing, never missing a beat, proving early on that setbacks would not stop him. Growing up in Hawaii, Bruno was exposed to a melting pot of musical styles. From his dad's doo-wop collection to the reggae beats pumping out of local radio stations, young Bruno was soaking it all in. Little did he know, this diverse musical education would later become his secret weapon to conquering the pop world. But life had some harsh lessons in store for this budding star. What happened next? Well, that's where our story takes a dark turn that nobody saw coming. Least of all, Bruno himself. At the tender age of 12, his parents divorced, and the Love Notes act came to an end. As his father's business fell apart, so did their stability. In the blink of an eye, the kid who once shone in sequin jumpsuits was facing a harsh, new reality. Homelessness. No more packed shows, no more applause, just survival. Bruno, his brother, and his father moved out of their family home. But where did they go? The answer might shock you: the back of a car. Some nights they slept on rooftops, and unbelievably, they even found refuge in an abandoned bird zoo called Paradise Park.
Where we were staying at first, didn't have a bathroom. So we'd have to walk across the park to this other spot that had a bathroom.
Wow.
And
sometimes in the middle of the night.
in the middle of the night.
Yeah, you heard that right. A bird zoo. Life had taken a drastic turn, and it wasn't done yet. Remember that park bathroom Bruno mentioned? That wasn't just a one-time thing. For over 2 years, Bruno and his family had no real home. They'd have to trek across the park in the middle of the night just to use the bathroom. Imagine doing that every single night? Now, most people would have been beaten down by this, but Bruno, he saw it differently. Don't think for a second that Bruno's dreams died in that park. Even while living in what he called the slums of Hawaii, Bruno kept performing. He transferred to a new school where, after some initial bullying, he became popular for his musical talents. A teenager, homeless and struggling, still belting out tunes and dreaming of making it big. That's the kind of grit that separates the dreamers from the doers. Bruno Mars wasn't just chasing dreams, he was building his escape route. As high school came to an end, Bruno was faced with a gut-wrenching decision. Stay in Hawaii, where he made a name for himself, or take the biggest gamble of his life and head to Los Angeles. But nothing could prepare him for the harsh reality that awaited him in LA. Would this be the place where Bruno Mars would finally make it, or would it break him? His next decision would change everything. Los Angeles, 2003. An 18-year-old Bruno Mars steps off the plane, guitar in hand, dreams packed in his suitcase, and not much else. He'd made it to the City of Angels, but reality was about to slap him in the face. Remember, this isn't the Bruno Mars we know today. This is a kid from Hawaii who'd never even seen a real winter. In LA, it wasn't exactly rolling out the red carpet for him. Bruno found himself living in Mansfield Avenue, a gritty neighborhood that looked nothing like the palm trees and beaches he'd left behind. Poverty shocked him. Was this really the entertainment capital of the world? He dove headfirst into the music scene, determined to make a name for himself. And that name, it wasn't Peter Hernandez anymore. He decided to go by Bruno Mars. Why? Well, as he put it, I felt like I didn't have no pizzazz. And a lot of girls say I'm out of this world, so I was like, I guess I'm from Mars. Gotta admire that logic. But here's where it gets interesting. The music industry. They didn't quite know what to do with Bruno Mars. Was he black? Was he white? What kind of music should he be making? It's like they were trying to put him in a box, but Bruno wasn't having any of it. He signed with Motown Records in 2004, but the deal went nowhere. After months of rejection and struggling just to survive, Bruno felt like giving up. It was his family, particularly his father, who kept encouraging him to keep going, reminding him of the talent that had gotten him through hard times before. He switched lanes, dove into songwriting and producing instead. Bruno worked day and night, writing songs for anyone who would listen, producing tracks for people you've never heard of, and even lied his way into DJ gigs just to survive. I told this person I could DJ because they said they could pay me $75 cash under the table. I didn't know how to DJ. I lost that job pretty quick, he later admitted. But here's the thing about Bruno. He's a quick learner. And more importantly, he's persistent as hell. He kept writing, kept producing, and kept pushing. And slowly but surely, people started to take notice. In 2009, he got his first taste of success as part of the production team, the Smeezingtons. They produced Flo Rida's big hit, Right Round. Finally, Bruno was making waves in the industry, but he wasn't content with being behind the scenes. Bruno Mars was destined for the spotlight. And in 2010, that's when everything changed. But the road to stardom, it wasn't going to be smooth sailing. Just when Bruno seemed to have it all, he was faced with a challenge that could have ended his career before it even took off. What happened next was a test of resilience like no other. The storm was coming. How would Bruno Mars weather it? "2010, the year Bruno Mars went from behind-the-scenes hitmaker to bona fide pop star. But let me tell you, it was not an overnight success story. This was the result of years of hustle, rejection, and straight-up hard work. Bruno had been quietly writing hits for other artists, but his moment was finally about to come. When he featured on B.O.B.'s Nothing on You and Travie McCoy's Billionaire, everything changed. Both tracks blew up. We're talking top 10 hits. Bruno wasn't just in the game anymore, he was rewriting the rules. After years of being told he didn't fit into any box, Bruno decided to make his own box. He released his debut EP, It's Better If You Don't Understand. The title, pretty fitting for a guy who'd been misunderstood his whole career. And then came Just the Way You Are. This song didn't just climb the charts, it rocketed to the top. #1 in the US, UK, and a bunch of other countries. His debut album, Doo-Wops and Hooligans, dropped in October of 2010. And let me tell you, it was like nothing else out there. Bruno took all those influences from his childhood, the doo-wop, the reggae, the pop, the R&B, and mixed them into something totally new. An album that sold over 15 million copies worldwide. But trust me, he was not ready for what was going to happen next. In September of 2010, as Bruno Mars was on the verge of stardom, he hit a major setback. He was arrested in Las Vegas for cocaine possession. Found in a bathroom at the Hard Rock Hotel with 2.6 grams of cocaine on him, Bruno was charged with a felony. For many, an incident like this could have spelled the end of a bubbling career. But Bruno's response set him apart. Rather than making excuses, he immediately owned up to his mistake, publicly acknowledging it in interviews, saying, "I made a mistake, and I learned from it." He was able to avoid jail time by agreeing to a plea deal, which included paying a $2,000 fine, doing 200 hours of community service, and attending drug counseling. This chapter in his life could have derailed him forever, but instead, Bruno used it as a wake-up call. But more importantly, he walked away from it with his focus sharpened. He wasn't just back, he was unstoppable. Just a few months later, he topped the charts with Just the Way You Are, proving that even a stumble couldn't stop his rise to the top. That's the kind of resilience that turns good artists into great ones. And great he became. The hits kept hitting. Grenade, The Lazy Song, It Will Rain for the Twilight soundtrack. Bruno Mars wasn't just having a moment, he was starting a movement. But But here's the thing about Bruno. He wasn't content with just being a pop star. He wanted to be an entertainer, a showman, the kind of performer people would talk about for years to come. And in 2014, with the world watching, Bruno was about to step onto the biggest stage of his life. But would he rise to the occasion, or would the pressure be too much to handle? The moment of truth was just around the corner. February 2nd, 2014, MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, the Super Bowl halftime show, the biggest stage in all of entertainment. And who else was headlining but Bruno Mars? Now, let's put this into perspective. Bruno was the first artist under 30 to headline the Super Bowl halftime show in over a decade. The pressure? Unimaginable. This was the kind of stage that could make or break an entire career, the kind where legends are born or forgotten. With his band, the Hooligans, backing him up, Bruno delivered a show that had everyone from kids to grandmas dancing in their living rooms. 115.3 million people were watching. That's almost the entire population of Mexico. All eyes were on Bruno Mars. He wasn't just a pop star anymore. He was a superstar. But success, even on this scale, doesn't erase the pain of loss. Just months before the Super Bowl, Bruno's world had been shattered when his mother passed away in 2013. The grief was overwhelming. These were his words. "So thankful for all the love during the most difficult time in my life. I'll be back on my feet again soon. That's what Mom wants," she told me. That's Bruno always pushing forward, even when life throws its hardest punches. And he kept pushing. His second album, Unorthodox Jukebox, dropped hit after hit. Locked Out of Heaven, When I Was Your Man, and Treasure, each song proved one thing. Bruno wasn't just a one-album wonder, he was here to stay. But then, Uptown Funk happened. This collaboration with Mark Ronson wasn't just a hit, it was a cultural earthquake. It spent 14 weeks at #1 on Billboard's Hot 100. You couldn't walk down the street without hearing it. People weren't just listening to Bruno Mars, they were living his music. And the awards, they started piling up. Grammys, Brit Awards, American Music Awards, you name it, Bruno was winning it. He even set a Guinness World Record as the first male artist to achieve 3 10 million selling singles. But success didn't change Bruno. He kept pushing, kept evolving. His third album, 24K Magic, showed a whole new side of him. It was funk, it was soul, it was pure Bruno Mars magic. And it won him Album of the Year at the Grammys. By 2021, Bruno had sold over 130 million records worldwide and had earned 15 Grammy Awards, solidifying his place among the music industry's elite. He'd become one of the best-selling artists of all time. Time magazine named him one of the 100 most influential people in the world. That same year, Bruno teamed up with Anderson .Paak to form Silk Sonic, releasing the Grammy-winning hit Leave the Door Open. With its smooth, nostalgic sound, the duo transported audiences back to the golden age of funk and soul, but Bruno made it feel timeless. Once again, he proved he could take any sound, any era, and make it his own. Bruno Mars wasn't just making music anymore, he was making history. Here's the thing, even with all the success, Bruno never lost sight of where he came from. He started the Grammy Camp Scholarship Fund to help aspiring musicians from Hawaii. He donated millions to various causes, from helping the victims of the Flint water crisis to supporting communities affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. From sleeping in park bathrooms to selling out stadiums, from impersonating Elvis to becoming a pop icon in his own right, Bruno Mars' journey is nothing short of extraordinary. But you know what's even more extraordinary? He's not done yet. Not by a long shot. In 2024, Bruno and Lady Gaga dropped Die With a Smile. The song portrays two lovers who want to experience their last moments with each other. It was a bold step, but that's what Bruno does. He keeps evolving. So what's next for Bruno Mars? Well, if his past is anything to go by, it's going to be spectacular. Because if there's one thing I've learned from Bruno's story, it's this. Never underestimate a kid with a dream and the determination to make it come true. It's a reminder that with talent, hard work, and a whole lot of perseverance, anything is possible. So the next time you listen to any Bruno Mars song on Spotify, remember, you're not just listening to a pop star. You're listening to a testament to the power of dreams. But he's not the only star who's risen from rock bottom. For another inspiring story of talent, struggle, and incredible comeback, watch this video next on our channel, The Insane Rise of Robert Downey Jr. From prison to Iron Man, it's a Hollywood redemption story you won't want to miss.